Welcome everybody to the 2013 JPD Awards ceremony. We have a number of guests here that I'd like to acknowledge. Please hold your applause until I've acknowledged all of them. We have our Council President, Kathy Vasco, Council Member Jim Farrell. We have Police and Fire Commission Member Mark Kopp. We have Chaplain James Moses. You guys got to raise your hand when I hit that name. We have Sheriff Spoden with us and Captain Maurer, both from the Rock County Sheriff's Department. Very glad you could make it over here with us, guys. And then we have retirees Kathy Hanthorne and Bob Wilkinson is with us, Janesville Police Department retiree. Did I miss anybody? Tom Wolfram is here. He retired, but he's back working with us again. This evening is a night for reflection of our duties and appreciation of our employees and citizens. It's an opportunity to honor a few of the many dedicated employees of the Janesville Police Department and members of our community. The employees you will meet here tonight are committed employees. Any organization has compliant employees, those employees that follow orders, follow policy, follow procedure. Compliant employees follow what they're told to do. But committed employees, now they possess a broader perspective of the department's goals, its mission, and individual responsibilities. Committed employees need little direction. They're self-starters, they're problem solvers, and they're enthusiastic. Recently, our employees in our community decided the mission of the Janesville Police Department. And when asked to put that mission into a single sentence, the members of the department decided it is service with pride, honor, courage, and respect. That is what JPD is all about. This evening, the department will also honor citizens and businesses that have supported the police department and the community. Police departments have learned that we can't go it alone, that we need the support of our community, and we need support of our businesses to truly allow our community to be safe. Every year, officers of the Janesville Police Department respond to tens of thousands of calls for service, traffic stops, citizen contacts, and other duties. Frequently, our citizens of the community assist the officers with their responsibility in a variety of ways. In many cases, officers will inform me of the citizens' assistance, and I'll send them a letter of appreciation. Out of all those letters that went out this last year, only one citizen was selected for the Law Enforcement Service Award. The Business Award is for a business that supports and furthers the mission of the police department and consequently serves the community. Also this year we have a relatively new award. It's the Problem-Oriented Policing Award. And the Problem-Oriented Policing Award is given to the officer or officers that have demonstrated a creative approach to policing and when implemented will better serve the community and reduce the need for police resources. I'd like to introduce Deputy Chief John Olson, who was first in line, and then Deputy Chief Dan Davis. The Deputy Chiefs and other officers will present information for each award. But before I turn the ceremony over to the Deputy Chiefs, I'd like to share one incident that occurred this last April that really exemplifies the type of employees and dedication we are so fortunate to have here at the Janesville Police Department. Last April we had a very violent domestic that happened on the Near East side of our city. While our officers were en route, they learned that the victims were attacked with an axe. The officers entered the home with their patrol rifles, noted that the suspect was gone, but he left behind two very severely injured victims. Officer Justin Stubendek found a male that had severe head injuries. He quickly handed off his patrol rifle to other patrol officers and applied direct pressure to the profusely bleeding head wound. Now, the officer didn't have any time to put on his protective gear, some of that protective gear that you'd see in medical facilities. And without hesitation, he went ahead and provided the needed medical assistance, setting aside the concern for his own safety. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the type of dedication to duty we see with our staff every day, every month, and all year long. Is Officer Studenbeck here? I don't know if he had a chance to make it tonight. He is not. Deputy Chief Davis and Deputy Chief Olson.
Good evening. Our first award is going to be for our Citizen Award, and like the Chief said, that award is based on the letters of appreciation that the Chief sent out during the year. Our accommodation committee gets together and reviews those letters and reports, and the criteria that they use to determine who is going to receive that award is that the award can be given to a citizen whose actions were beyond what is normally expected of a citizen. The award will be a framed certificate. Factors to consider include the assistance was given without regard to personal welfare. The assistance had a direct and positive bearing on the outcome of the incident and contributed to the furtherance of law enforcement, and the citizen's actions were responsible and intelligent. This year's recipient is Brian Iverson, and I'll briefly describe the incident that he was involved in. On October 26, 2013, Brian Iverson awoke to hear some rustling in his bedroom. An intruder was crawling on the floor near the foot of his bed. Mr. Iverson yelled at the suspect and asked him what he was doing in his house. The suspect immediately ran out of the bedroom and down the stairs to the front door. Mr. Iverson chased the suspect. The suspect tripped trying to escape, and Mr. Iverson jumped on him. The two continued to wrestle on the sidewalk area in front of the home. Mr. Iverson sustained noticeable injuries to his left eye and elbow during the confrontation. Officers were in the area investigating a complaint of a burglary at a nearby home. Officers arrived on scene quickly and took the suspect into custody. The suspect was arrested on multiple charges. Mr. Iverson's swift actions and bravery resulted in the capture and arrest of the suspect. The Janesville Police Department appreciates and recognizes his actions. Brian? Next, I'll introduce Detective Kyle Austin. He's going to present our Business Award.
Hello, I'll be presenting the Business Award to Keeley Pharmacy. Keeley Pharmacy is Janesville's only independently owned pharmacy. It is an active participant in the RX Alert program. RX Alert is a cooperative effort to increase communication between the Janesville Police Department, pharmacies, and healthcare providers to reduce prescription drug violations. The pharmacists and employees of Keeley Pharmacy use the information provided by RX Alert to recognize potential use cases and act on them accordingly. In April of 2013, the department received information on several out-of-state individuals attempting to pass prescriptions for narcotics at local pharmacies. Mark Johnson, owner of Keeley Pharmacy, received a call from an individual asking to have an out-of-state narcotic prescription filled. Based on the information obtained through RX Alert, employees notified police. A short time later, the suspect was taken into custody for a prescription drug offense. A similar incident in the spring of 2013 led to the arrest of a Janesville female who was attempting to pass fraudulent prescriptions. The employees of Keeley Pharmacy deserve to be recognized for their attention to detail and willingness to assist the Janesville Police Department in enforcing laws pertaining to prescription drug fraud. Keeley Pharmacy goes above and beyond to form a working relationship between government and business to help create a safer community. Mr. Johnson, sorry, somewhere around here.
Can I just get some recognition to some of my employees?
Definitely.
You know, the best thing about being a boss is sometimes you get all the credit, but all the credit probably comes from your employees. I'd like to just introduce a few people who made this award possible. First of all, my mentor and previous boss, partner, Mr. Keeley, is the gentleman who set the principles at Keeley Pharmacy that continue today. He's standing up there taking pictures. Pharmacists that are very active, and I probably would receive this award if it wasn't for them and their gentle encouragement to keep doing it, and we really believe that. Joe Reedy, Joe?
Next up will be W. Chief Davis, presenting the problem-oriented policing award.
Good evening. The problem-oriented policing award is given to an employee or employees who demonstrate involvement in an innovative and effective problem-oriented policing project. And this year we have 2 officers who are going to be recognized for their innovative problem solving, and the first officer is Ben Biddick. Ben was recommended for this award by Detective Chris Busher, and the reason for Ben's nomination this year is twofold. For years, primarily on C shift, the midnight shift, officers have been out checking businesses, making sure they're locked up, making sure they're secure, trying to reduce the likelihood of property crimes. And Ben took it upon himself to expand that a little bit and came up with the idea that we should probably be doing the same thing for private residences. So usually when we find a open door or something, we'll leave a slip for the business owner, letting them know that there was an oversight and that they had left their building insecure. And Ben came up again with one for private residences. As we check the residential areas at night, he noticed that periodically there would be garage doors open. We have a lot of thefts from vehicles, not always, but a lot of times the cars are unlocked. And he, again, just expanded that program for residences and for private vehicles. Secondly, Ben noticed and was concerned about the trauma that children go through when they witness violence. And so he did some research and he put together a brochure to hand out to parents, alerting them to some of the warning signs and some strategies to help their kids should they start demonstrating signs that they're being bothered by witnessing or observing violence. So Ben, if you'll come on up. The second officer that's going to be recognized for the problem-oriented policing award is Officer Brad Rao. We have an establishment in town that hosts live music events on a fairly regular basis, and the reality of it is that at some of the live music events, there's a high frequency of some pretty significant violence. In some neighboring communities, there was a officer golf shooting that was fatal for, fortunately, not the officer. There have been some other shooting events, one in Janesville at similar events, and Officer Rao took it upon himself to try to come up with a strategy on reducing the violence at these live music events. And basically what he's done is gotten all the stakeholders that are participating in these events, the person hosting it, the security crew, the promoters, and the performers, and have put together a plan so that everybody for that specific event is on the same page, everybody knows what's expected. And Brad took this over a little over 2 years ago, and since he has implemented this, the bar has continued to host the live music events, and we've had a few problems, but they're very minor in nature. compared to what they have been in other communities. And as a matter of fact, last summer, I fielded numerous phone calls from neighboring communities, typically in the Madison and Milwaukee area, because they had heard that our establishment here in town had continued to host these live music events, and that we were not having anywhere near the number of problems that other communities have been experiencing, and they wanted to know how they could, or what the secret was and how they could reach the same level of success. So, Brad? And Deputy Chief John Olson is going to introduce our next award recipient.
Our next award is for the Meritorious Service Citation. First, I'll give you a little background on that award and then introduce Officer Chad Woodman. A day probably doesn't go by where officers don't put themselves in a potentially dangerous situation and or do something above and beyond what we normally expect of them. And they're frequently recognized at the shift level by their supervisors. Several times those reports will make it to the chief's desk for review and consideration for a commendation. In 2013 we gave 7 commendations out, so we don't give out many. And it's, the level is pretty high of performance to receive one of those. The commendation committee then reviews those commendations to see if they meet the criteria for a higher department award, and one of those awards being the Meritorious Service Citation. This award is given to any officer who performs an act of heroism or bravery, which is laudable or extraordinary. This award will consist of a plaque and a 2-colored section bar, blue and white in color, to be worn on the uniform. Factors to be considered include the act was performed with a high degree of risk of personal injury, the officer had full knowledge of the inherent danger existing and demonstrated unusual disregard for his or her personal safety, the officer's actions were beyond the normal hazards of duty, and the officer's actions showed a high level of character and integrity. Officer Chad Woodman has been employed by the Janesville Police Department since 2000. He currently works 3rd shift patrol and is a sniper on the SWAT team. Officer Woodman was awarded a Chief's Commendation for an incident he responded to on October 8, 2013. Officer Woodman responded to a violent domestic dispute in which the father was beating a mother and had armed himself with a knife. Upon arrival, Officer Woodman encountered the children of the couple outside the home. He instructed the children to run down the street and hide until other officers arrived. The male suspect exited the house holding a butcher knife. The suspect refused to drop the knife and would not comply with Officer Woodman's commands. After further commands were ignored, Officer Woodman used his taser to incapacitate the man and took him into custody. The subject was arrested for 4 criminal charges. During this dynamic event, Officer Woodman assured the safety of the 2 children, the victim, and himself. He safely took the suspect into custody. Officer Woodman's actions reflect his ability to perform under stress while utilizing his training. For his commendable actions, he is awarded the Meritorious Service Citation. Officer Woodman. Now I'll introduce Lieutenant Rick Larson. He'll give our Civilian of the Year award.
Hello. Yes, I'm presenting the Civilian Employee of the Year award. And that's for Ms. Karen Dardick. Karen began her employment with the Janesville Police Department back in 1997. She began her career as a administrative aide, and then moved to the position of records manager in 2009. She brought her knowledge from those two positions to her current position as the chief secretary. In 2013, Karen spent a considerable amount of time managing the changeover to the department's new records management system. She assisted in selecting the system by serving on a countywide committee that was formed back in 2009. In January of 2013, she started training as a system administrator and spent many hours entering data to prepare the forms for our department. When we started using the system back in June, Karen worked very long and varied hours to assist with implementing the program. She made herself available and actually worked all 3 shifts during that busy time. She also helped prepare lesson plans and then co-taught classes to further assist officers in learning the program. Also during this busy time, Karen helped train the new records manager. She also continued to assist employees while taking on new duties as secretary. Karen is a very smart, dedicated, and hardworking employee who deserves this recognition. Karen?
Each year we give one award of excellence, and this is for the supervisor that has really performed notably over the year. And this year it's Lieutenant Terry Sheridan. Terry, would you come up and stand with us here? Terry's an idea guy. He's always thinking about what can we do, not what can't we do. And he has helped the department out greatly. He works 3rd shift, so when all of us are home alone or home at our homes sleeping and feeling safe and comfortable, Terry's a man in the street and making sure that we're all safe. He has helped us out greatly with the technology. He's very good with computers. He keeps our laptops going, our printers going. He is involved with the field training program and assures that the new officers that we hire are trained properly. And we've come to learn over the years that if we can get things right in those first few weeks with an officer, we generally see a very good career with the officer, and Terry sees that occurs. He also oversees background investigations, and when we hire a new officer, we'll spend about 40 hours on that officer. And it's a virtual essay by the time it gets to Terry's desk on what he needs to review and read. And we really try to do the best we can to get the best and the brightest in at the Janesville Police Department. Terry's a sketch artist, so oftentimes when we have a crime, Terry will sit down with a victim of the crime and he will sketch the suspect's looks based on what the victim tells him. And he's also a fair and impartial policing instructor. He went out of state for this training. He's going to train all officers on the Janesville Police Department, and I suspect other officers around the Midwest with this new cutting-edge diversity training. Terry is here with his wife Peggy and his sons Alec and Scott. Terry, congratulations. And Detective Steve Williams will give the next award.
Good evening. I'm proud to announce the 2013 Janesville Police Department Police Officer of the Year, Officer Shane Punzel. Officer Shane Punzel has been an officer with the Janesville Police Department since 1996 and currently works first shift patrol. Officer Punzel is a committed team member and often volunteers for additional assignments. When not answering calls, he fills his day looking for wanted people or conducting follow-up investigations. Shane will visit the Detective Bureau on a regular basis and ask if any of us have any suspects that need to be apprehended. Shane is relentless in his pursuit of criminals. In addition to his duties as a patrol officer, Officer Punzel is a dedicated member of the SWAT team and a firearms instructor. As a SWAT team leader, I have the privilege to have Officer Punzel as part of our team. He is dedicated and hardworking tactical officer. His dedication to SWAT became extremely evident in June 2013. We were called to an armed barricaded suspect. Called during the evening hours. Officer Punzel had to get up the next morning around 3 a.m. To run a 100-mile trail run. The cavalry had a 100-mile run. But Officer Punzel decided to come to the SWAT call, and he was up until past midnight. And had to get up at 3 a.m. and run 100 miles, which a little bit crazy, but he did it. We're proud of him. But that's just an example of his dedication to the police department and our SWAT team. Also, as a firearms instructor, Shane has an outstanding ability to help officers maintain or improve their marksmanship skills. He performs these additional duties with great passion and sense of responsibility. Officer Punzel was nominated for this award by 3 coworkers. He contributes greatly to the department and does so with an outstanding attitude. Shane is also a dedicated husband and father of 2 young boys. The department truly appreciates his efforts. With that, I'm privileged to present Officer Shane Punzel, 2013 Janesville Police Department Officer of the Year.
Before I offer the closing here, I want one here, Councilmember Markline is with us here. Doug, you must have snuck in on me. So, thank you for taking time out of your evening. On behalf of the Janesville Police Department, I'd like to offer our thanks to everyone for joining us tonight. Special thanks go to our spouses, significant others, and family members that support our officers and our staff. You are the ones that keep our families together when our employees are working weekends, those long hours, holidays, and varying shifts. An author by the name of Michael Josephson wrote on the topic of what will matter. I'd like to share with you one paragraph from his writing. So what will matter? How will the value of your days be measured? What will matter is not what you bought, but what you built. Not what you got, but what you gave. What will matter is not your success, but your significance. What will matter is not what you learned, but what you taught. What will matter is every act of integrity, compassion, courage, or sacrifice that enriched, empowered, or encouraged others to emulate your example. Living a life that matters doesn't happen by accident. It's not a matter of circumstance, but of choice. And the people that were committed here tonight are people that have made that choice. And before I close, I got to tell you one cute little story. Some of the kids were in the back here before the beginning, and I won't say who, but one child went up to another child and says, "My dad came in first." That's the end of our ceremony. Thanks everybody for coming.